First, I'm just going to show you the basics of setting up the NPC itself, because that's the really easy part. So you're going to go over to Trichavella, load that up, and basically just as a rule of thumb with any of this stuff, you always just want to copy what From has already done. So, just copying enemies and stuff will make things easier. So for example, Kale here, you could copy him. But just as a little tip, this is obviously not the player model. NPCs use the player model. And when you're placing a player model on the map, it's actually this thing right here. You'll see it a lot. Oh, this one's different, actually. This is C0100. Doesn't matter. It's going to look like this little red thing. For the player model itself, it's going to be C1000, which I'll show you in a second here. But so you just grab this one, Control D to duplicate it, and then drag it over. And you're going to want to change it to C1000, which you won't see the enemy model, but and the name doesn't matter, but the model name does. So as long as that's C1000, you can ignore pretty much all of these for now. The only ones that really matter right here are entity ID. If you don't have this sheet, it's in server name. I can send it to you as well. It's just a sheet by Matt that tells you how to find unused IDs for pretty much everything. So, for example, for MSB, which is the map data, you'll look at this section right here, and this section will tell you what the last 4 digits need to start with. So, for example, for an enemy, the last 4 digits need to start with 0. So we take that information, we look, and we say, oh, okay, yes, this one starts with 0. And these numbers here before the last 4 are the name of the map, basically, the ID of the map. So 60 is 10. M60 is the overworld map, but they translate it to 10 for some reason. So this would be 10, 42, 36, 07, 40 is the entity ID of this right here. So we want to change this to something that we can remember, say like 0800. And then just to double check that it's not being used by anything, what you can do is right click on entity ID, or sorry, in the field here, and click search. Yours will probably be up here, but put it down here and we'll say, oh, okay, see, we do have an error here. So this, whatever this guy is, we can hit F to go to it. So the tree sentinel is using 800. So that's no good. That will cause crashes and potentially corrupt your MSB. So you don't want to do that. So we'll say 750. Maybe 750 is not used. Check. 750 is used. Excellent. Who is 750? That looks like not the Grace. Now it thinks there's nothing. Oh, that's the map studio layer. I'm stupid. There we go. Okay, so now the only thing that shows up is new NPC. Excellent. You can think of entity IDs as just an ID that is used to be a unique identifier for specific parts in MSB. And they will sometimes overlap with flags and stuff, but we'll get into that. So you can ignore pretty much all of this, especially if you're copying it from an existing NPC. And you'll see down here, these are named. So you have think param, NPC param, talk ID, and chara init ID. That is the stuff you're going to care about. Also, probably, where is it? Backup event anim ID. I'll explain that as well. So I don't know if you have any experience with these params, but basically these 3 params right here are what's going to determine what the NPC will look like and do. So for an NPC that's just going to stand there and you're going to talk to, you can just hit this as 0, which will be fine. That just means that they're just going to stand there and they're not going to do anything. So for me, what we're going to do is I'm just going to use my NPC that I've already made from for a new feature that I'm working on, the Isle of Bounty thing. So we can compare this real quick to something, to a different NPC. We'll say Kale, because he's sitting right there. So we can compare this and see that the team type is different. Again, none is just used if you don't want to target the NPC. If you want to change it to friendly NPC, so I think that will allow you to kill them, then you could do that. There's other things here like name ID. So name ID is going to be in the text editor. You're going to have to do a lot of text editing stuff, but it's pretty easy in here. So name ID is going to be characters. Again, you just duplicate one of these and change the ID to something that's unused. Pick out a range for visions. I'm sure somebody on the team already has a range that they're working with. I would just carve out a range of IDs for, like, the companion system. Like, for example, all of these start with 7001 and then 4 digits after that. 7001 internally for me is the arena, which is my Coliseum mode. So if I just go 7001, then a lot of them come up. If I go 7002, then there's only one, but this is for the next update, Archipelago, so the Caretaker's ID is in there. Let's see what else here. This is all pretty self-explanatory. HP stuff, enemy lot IDs, that's what you get when you kill them. This is all just NPC param is mostly like telling the game, what is it about the NPC that makes them like resistant to stuff, or how much damage they output. My phone's ringing. If you want to give them any special effects, stuff like, you could do anything with special effects, but usually for NPCs, it's their scaling and their animation offsets, if they have any. That'll just determine what bank of animations they're pulling from. Stuff like that. Again, this is all very, like, kind of in the weeds stuff that you could change if you want the NPC to do something really specific. Think param is the one that determines their AI, basically. So in here, it'll say what their logic ID and battle goal ID is. That's just like the battle scripting Lua stuff. Just grab one from another player model. So you would duplicate this. I don't have one of these for Caretaker because she's not going to fight with you at any point, and you can't fight her. So just duplicate one of these. The important thing here is the logic ID and battle goal ID. And all of this is just customizing, like, how quick they are to fight someone, like how far away can they see you or hear you or smell you. I don't know how smell works, but it is an option. Nose ID is one. There's also nav mesh stuff, what they do when they fail a nav mesh check and stuff like that. All of this is probably not going to be changed at all. Just duplicate an existing NPC one and you're probably fine, because for the most part, player NPCs use the exact same stuff every time. So if we hit compare here, sure, yeah, so we see Yura as another summon you can make. Exact same logic and battle goal IDs. So, you know what, for now, let's take Yura's and we'll slap that on the think param ID here. Okay, next, talk ID. This is the name of the file that will be the talk script. And I'm going to talk about that probably last because it's going to take a minute. So we'll skip over that for now. We'll just leave it at 0 for now, which means you can't talk to it. The Kara init ID. This is where you determine the visuals of a player NPC. So all of these are player NPCs basically. So we'll go to caretakers here because she is a player NPC. And this is all basically just the character creator. In terms of like the equipment that you have, character creator is different. I'll get to that in a second. There's a lot of nested params here, but at the top of it, to determine what the NPC looks like and is wearing and has equipped, is Kara init param. So this is equipped weapons, blah blah blah. You can change all that stuff. What armor they're wearing. This just refers to equip param protector. Obviously the weapons are equip param weapon, pretty self-explanatory. You can give them ammo, you can give them talismans, different spells in their spell slots, different goods that they can use, like flasks and stuff. And then their level, I made Caretaker impossibly strong, even though you can never fight her. Their base HP, all that stuff. Gestures, I don't even think that they ever do this. A lot of this is here because Kara init param is also used for the classes. So you give a class at the start of Kara init param, and that's what determines what the classes start with. This is stored items. This is your pouch on the right side of the screen when you pause it. So what you want to care about in here is obviously the armor and stuff that we showed earlier, but face param. This is a nested param in here that it refers to. Face param is the actual like character face generator. So all of these are the NPC character faces. I have some of them named. No one's gone through and named all of them because probably a nightmare to do that. But if I look for caretaker here, these are all just the sliders in the game. So if you already have a face param, you might already have all this stuff set up, which is great. In which case you could probably just skip ahead. But I'm on my other screen looking for some screenshots. But just in case you don't know what this is, it's just these sliders. And they're pretty self-explanatory. Some of them are annoying, and I still don't fully understand how they work. Like, any that have parts in them that are referring to parts instead of raw numbers are a little confusing. Like, for example, hair parts ID. This is the ID of the actual parts file that's in the game, not the one you select, not the number that you select in the character creator. It's the same for all of these. Most of them you can find pretty easily by looking in the game files or just in the params, except for bone structure. Bone structure is confusing, and I'm not totally sure how it works. So anyway, yeah, that is what goes in here. So caret init ID, so we'll scroll back up to the top here. We'll grab that ID. We'll plug it in there. Bada boom, bada bing. You can ignore pretty much everything else here. Again, like I said, backup event anim ID. I guess I should explain animations real quick. This is an idle, basically. Backup event anim ID is the idle animation. By default, an NPC will default to A000 as their animation bank. Think of them as different boxes of animations you can pull from. To change which box you're pulling from, so if I collapse this here, and we scroll down, see how many of these there are. And some of them, these are all different tays, but like in enemy IDs, there are different quote-unquote boxes of animations inside one tay. You need to set an animation offset to change which one of these you're grabbing from. So A300 is where NPC animations start. So if we look for one that I've named, here we go. So A320 is Vare, for example. So this is Vare's idle. So let's figure out, how does Vare go from A00 to A320? Let's find out. This took me a while to figure out because it was annoying the other day. So it's in NPC param, sort of. It's technically a special effect. So if we go in here and we sort by special effects, we can see down here, special effect ID 20 normally is for NPCs is going to have an unnamed row here. I've named some of them because it's when I was going through and looking for it. So if we go here and look at it, 9820, the only thing that's different about it from, let's say, 0 here, is this anim ID offset. I have it pinned at the top here, but it's normally like way the hell down here somewhere. Where is it? Who cares? You can find it. You can just search for it. Anim ID offset. This is a big ass number, but what's important here is 320. Great. Remember that number? It's this, 320. And the number's so big because it has to account for the trailing ID at the end here. So, for example, if we want her to do the Vare idle, we would give her this ID. And I don't think I'm going to do that because it's going to bother me. I might forget to change it, but she already has an offset. I think it's patches offset, caretaker. I mean, yeah. So right here, I have patches anim ID in there, 9839. So 39 also, these numbers sort of correlate, but just so that we can be sure, patches is 339. So we'll go in and we'll see. We can scroll down. We can look at A339. Blam, patches. So we could see here that this 9100 here and 9100 here, that's the same. So that's why you need the offset to tell it which 9100 it's grabbing from. So we can look in here and be like, okay, how do I want her to be idling? I have caretaker idling like this. That's why she has that one. Let's say we'll want her to sit like this. So this is 9104. Go back over to Map Studio. And we say backup event anim ID 9104. Now she has a new idle. And again, just to recap, the NPC param has a special effect on it that has an anim ID offset. So we can see she's got the correct animation that Patches has. You actually can't target her because she's friendly, but if I think I should be able to attack her versus the none NPC team type. It's what the two fingers uses, which it's kind of redundant because you can't attack in round table hold anyway. But yeah. So I'm not going to attack her because I don't want to make her hostile. That will be annoying. But yeah, she's sitting down there just like that Patches animation ID that we picked out. And she's got the correct face and everything and the correct armor. Just can't talk to her like we can over here with Kale. So let's figure out how to talk to her. What you need for this is this right here. ESD tool. It's a 5th Mat made it. It's good stuff. It's how you decompile the talk scripts. We're going to use M00, which it doesn't refer to a map. It's just a series of talk scripts that can always be accessed. There's a bunch in here. And the reason for that is because I'm using this for a lot of shopkeepers. But you've got your 5000.python that I've sent you. Think of this as main menu. This is what will come up after she says something. If you don't need her to say anything, that'll be a little bit more complicated, but this will kind of get your gears turning. So basically how this script works is it's being handled by two things. So this is the dialogue tree. And then down here is the main menu where you select things like purchase, sell, or leave. And this is for a shop vendor, obviously. And if she's not going to be a shop vendor, that's fine. You can change one of these to be like recruit or something. This is the dialogue tree. So all of these if statements here, what matters here is this first state 1. This is basically saying if this flag is off, then you do this one. Talk to player, and then set an event flag. This flag, and we can refer back to over here. I don't know if Visions has a base flag at this point, but flags here, this is this kind of flag. So, for example, you can go here. You can see that, for example, I have 1024 64,000 and 1054 64,000. But anything that's not purple and doesn't have a name, you can choose as a Visions base flag. I have 2 just because I'm insane. I mean, the Pokemon mod has like 6 here, so but this is good to refer to just to make sure you're not stepping on any other mods' toes. That's how I chose this flag here. 8,000 is just what I've carved out for the Archipelago Isle of Bounty stuff. So 8003 is a flag that basically says, have you talked to her for the first time? Because what it's doing here, if you look, is if this flag is off, then do this talk to player. I'll explain what these mean in a second. And then turn this flag on. So when you talk to her again, it'll say, oh, this flag is on. Don't do this. Go to the next thing, which is else if this flag is on. And I'll explain what all these flags are in a second. This is referring to talk param. These are unimportant. Just leave them at -1, -1, 0. So this is a talk param thing. So we go back in here. This is another like kind of nested thing. You look for talk param. Put that in. Blammo. Here it is. And this kind of works how item lots work, where it will just continue to say dialogue until it reaches a break. So if we just look at 7002, which is again my ID naming thing, we can see 500 or 5000, 5001, 5002. There's no 5003, so it'll stop there. This is all stuff that you won't have to worry about here. This voice ID, this is normally the voice that would play, like the actual sound file that would play. And then you can change like the animation while they're talking and give them a special effect while they're talking, I guess. Again, I haven't really messed with this stuff because without the sound file in the game, it's not really super important. So that's how that works. And then obviously talk message here, these IDs are referring to talk message in the text editor, in FMG stuff. So again, we can go 7002, we look, here's all the dialogue, and you get those IDs. They don't have to line up, like you could go crazy and be like an insane person and make the IDs not make any sense, but I like to have IDs of the same thing be the same if possible. So the ID of the talk param is 7725000. So the ID of the talk message is 70025,000. I think the male and female here is referring to the sex of the player, not the sex of the NPC, because they flip pronouns sometimes. I would just use they, because that's better and it's less work, because you don't have to separate that. Anyway, this is the ID that goes back into here, into the talk to player. So basically this is saying if the player has not spoken to this NPC before, talk to the player with this talk param, and then tell the game that they have spoken to this NPC before. All of these elifs are the same as this. The only difference is that they don't turn a flag on or off after, because we want these to happen repeatedly. And this is just because I have, for Caretaker, I have a system similar to Demon Souls. I think most of the Souls games do it with their NPCs, where she can go to different spots. So this is her default spawn location right here. And then there are map points all around that I have disabled right now. Region. Here we go. So these map points are all places that she can go. And this is handled in the event script, where it's just randomly setting a flag. So there's a flag. It's randomly setting a flag within a range of 10 to 30. So if it picks one of those, it will send her to that specific location, and then Talk ESD also checks it. So we'll say if event flag 10 is on, which means, I think that means this one, this first one here, which means she's on the house steps. Cool. Then we want to have her say something different, which would be this talk to player. So different ID, and you just kind of increment here. Then just an else, catch all. This is just a default response, and this, she'll say this if she's anywhere other than the ones that have flags associated with them. Including, for example, like, I have a one right here, which she does teleport to a different location, but she doesn't have unique dialogue for that one, because it's like 3 feet from it. It's this right here. So that's just like a fallback thing. So if you don't want her to have a dialogue tree, then all you need is this right here. First time, like, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah. And then, hey, how's it been? How's it shaken? I don't know. That's dialogue tree stuff. I don't even know if that's important to you, because I don't know if you wanted these NPCs to talk with dialogue tree stuff. I don't know. But I'm explaining Talk ESD. Once the talking is done, it goes to state 16, which is checking to see that the conversation has ended. And then all of this stuff I don't fully understand. But what it's basically saying is saying, okay, this is done, conversation done, and return back to where this dialogue thing was called to begin with, which is this right here, this function or event or whatever. So once that's all done, it'll move on to I think this one. Yeah, which just says, which basically is just a fancy check to say, is there talking? Which returns it again, so this one finishes, so we go back to where this one was called, and we say, oh, okay, once this one's done, go to 43, which finally brings us to the main menu. Talk scripts are stupid, if that wasn't illustrative of that. So, we've done that dialogue tree, now we're on the main menu, which is the little option onto the side, the left side of the screen, that has a bunch of talk list stuff. State 0 here, while true, this is basically just saying, while this event is active, while the menu is open. This is just clearing any talk list data that's left over from, some other thing. It's just a debugging step, like turning those flags off in EMVD. And then here are your options. So add talk list data. This is adding just a text entry, basically, with a couple params here. So add talk list data. It's similar to talk to player. Number 1 here, this first is just, it's a number that we're going to check for in a second in state 6 here. This is a text ID again. It's just in the FMG. If we go to event text for talk, and what is this? 2 bajillion 10, blam, purchase. So you'll just want to make a new one here that'll say, like, I don't know, recruit. Don't touch any of this stuff. What you can edit here is these if statements. So get talk list entry result. This is looking for this number right here. So if the player clicks on purchase, then it sends number 1 as the talk list entry result. So it's saying if get talk list entry result equals 1, which is purchase, then go to state 4, which is open regular shop. And then this is just the ID range of the shop in the shop lineup param. And then an elif here, if it's 2, open the cell shop, because this is cell. And then an else, if anything else happens, just leave. And then I have a talk to player in here that just is caretaker saying a general goodbye, and then return. If what you would want to do, basically, I'm not sure, but you would change the text of the talk list data here. And then the main thing is you would probably want to turn a flag on. So say this was recruit instead. State 2 here was recruit. Then you would want to say like set event flag, blah 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 blah, whatever the event flag is, and I think just set event flag just turns it on. Let me see, I can check. Yeah. So okay, comma 1 or 0 is what it is. That's right. So we would do blammo blammo, and now what this would do is it would open the shop and also set this flag on. So this flag I would assume would be a flag that's saying that you have recruited this NPC, and then you could check for that in the events or wherever you decide to start the thing that determines what NPC, what companion is following you at that time. I'm gonna try to recap this here quickly with the talk portion. Dialogue. This is determining what the NPC says and when they say it. Once this is over, it will open the main menu where you can add options for the player to select and say what happens when the player selects that. You would say, hello, my name is Jim. Set that here. And then the next time you come back, Jim would say, hey, I'm still Jim. Nice to meet you. And then in here, there could be an option that says recruit Jim. And then you press recruit Jim. And it says, oh, okay, you pressed recruit Jim. Jim flag turned on. And then EMEVD is like, oh, is Jim flag on? Then summon Jim. I don't think you can summon directly in EMEVD, but you get my point. My idea was if Jim flag is on, then warp Jim NPC to player, because you can do that. You can with this here, issue short warp request, you can warp things to other things. And we'll say, oh, okay, what do I want our talk ID to be? We're just going to set it to 5,000 because that's what's already in game. We hit Control S, boot the game up. My game is lagging like a motherfucker right now. Yeah, so talk. Just say, oh, hello there. So this is the first time thing. And then here comes the main menu. And I hit purchase, so it sends that 1 value. And then here's the things for the purchase. It'll go back, sell, it opens the sell shop, and then, whatever. And she says bye then. Then if you talk to her again, she's got the welcome back message. She's not going to have any other dialogue because she's not set up to warp in this area. But, yeah. So that's how that works. Seems a lot simpler in game once you get it in game. How long was this? An hour. I'm going to trim this down for you because that was a nightmare. Yeah, so if you have any other questions, be sure to let me know. But this is just a quick recap here. To put an NPC on the map, you duplicate one, you give it the C1000 model name, you give it an entity ID that's not being used by anything else, you give it its own think param and NPC param IDs, you give it a talk ID, you give it a caret init ID, and if you want to change its idle, you give it a backup event anim ID. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay. I'm going to cut this down and then send it over to you now.